Ontario saw an alarming jump in fire deaths in 2018. According to the latest stats, 101 people died in blazes. This came after a gradual decline in recent years. That has fire chiefs across the province worried, including Chief Larry Brassard in Gravenhurst, where emergency responses in the town were up for the first time in 6 years. And Chief Brassard joins me on the phone now. Good morning.
Good morning, Wei.
How surprised were you by those numbers, 101 fire fatalities?
Well, we watch the situation across the province all year long, and as the year progressed, we saw the numbers going higher and higher. And, of course, as the end of December approached, we watched with some trepidation as that number kept growing higher and higher. And when it topped 100, I think all the fire chiefs across the province gasped a little because of that number. Alarming to us, certainly.
What do you think accounts for that spike and a reversal of a trend that you'd been seeing in recent years?
Well, I think ultimately you can reduce all of the causations to human behaviors, but the two behaviors that cause us the most concern have statistically shown up for the last several years, and they are the number one cause of fatal fires in Ontario remains careless smoking. And the number one cause of all fires remains unattended cooking in the kitchen. So these two behaviors that people continue to exhibit all contribute to the growing number of deaths. It's really unfortunate.
Yeah, very unfortunate because, as you say, preventable. What are some of the more common scenarios, too?
Well, smoking in bed is the one that we see most often. People will lie down on the couch or actually in their bed and have a cigarette to relax for the last part of their evening, and they gradually doze off and fall asleep, and unfortunately in some cases those cigarettes don't self-extinguish like they're supposed to, and fires occur. We also see people surprisingly smoking while using oxygen. In Toronto, you will have seen a spike in fires caused by people throwing cigarette butts off of balconies, of all things. We see that in the central and northern Ontario, people throwing cigarette butts out of car windows as well. These are all human behaviors that can be corrected, but unfortunately, people being what they are creatures of habit, and they don't typically associate fire causes with themselves personally. So. The concern.
Yeah. Fortunately, in your area, there were no fire fatalities or serious injuries or anything recorded last year, but your emergency responses were up for the first time in 6 years. Any idea why?
Well, it's in terms of overall responses for us, it's a combination of different things. In the north, especially, we're more prone to severe weather impacting our emergency responses. When a windstorm comes through, of course, hydro lines are affected, and they can cause grass and brush fires and those kinds of things. So severe weather is certainly impacting our responses in the north.
I gather that, you talk about these stats too with your colleagues, your fellow fire chiefs. What is it that you think should be done then? What needs to change in terms of the messaging?
Well, messaging, first of all, has to be consistent and constant. We can never stop the messaging that we've been doing, and I think we've been doing it fairly well for the last 2 decades. And, of course, the introduction of smoke alarms and carbon monoxide alarms in people's homes have made a tremendous difference. And those two devices by themselves have saved hundreds and hundreds of lives. And so we keep messaging about the need to make sure that alarms are current, up-to-date, have fresh batteries, those kinds of issues. But I think as long as human behavior remains part of the chain, we have to do something beyond that to try and change these numbers. And my mind turns to engineering as a solution. If human behaviors will continue as humans continue, I think we need to look at engineering solutions to this problem.
Yeah, maybe something like a self-extinguishing stove or something.
Those technologies are available. I was thinking more along the lines of residential sprinkler systems. The Ontario government recently introduced sprinkler systems as being mandatory in old age homes, and that will go a tremendously long way in preventing unnecessary deaths. I think it's actually time that we extend that thinking into our own homes and I think the province should be looking at mandating sprinklers in all new construction, regardless of size, and certainly having home sprinklers installed will prevent unnecessary death.
I wonder what the cost would be, though.
Yeah, cost. I mean, this is often thrown out as a common excuse of why residential sprinklers haven't caught on. But when you factor in the cost of a new home, residential sprinklers make up a tiny percentage of a new home construction. Certainly in the GTA, we see home prices regularly of new homes in the $1 million range, and so to sprinkler a home of that value would not cost a significant amount in my view.
Chief Brassard, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thank you, Wei. It's been great.
That was Fire Chief Larry Brassard from Gravenhurst. So, many of these fires preventable. So be mindful then, because the number one causes are careless smoking, careless cooking.